Imagine if lightning struck a pregnant woman right in her womb. Normally, you'd wonder if it was just Zeus playing a cruel joke. But believe it or not, in this case, it's a good thing. Because it marks the day you are born. Chapter 1. Childhood. Most great men in history tend to have their stories start out in poverty, or something very similar. Not you though. You are loaded. Your dad is the king of Macedon, and is also the man who created the Great Macedon army and united a huge part of Greece. Pay attention, his actions play quite a huge role later in your life. Your dad isn't around much because of wars and all, but you still admire him and one day believe you can surpass him. And your mom doesn't fail to give you motivation for this belief either. She is constantly reminding you that you're destined for greatness and you belong to the bloodline of Achilles. You also take a very deep liking to Achilles as well. Though worshipping the dude who died from an ankle injury is a questionable choice. One day, a horse dealer brings a wild horse into your father's court. Nobody can seem to ride this beast without getting a face full of hoof. But you notice something about the horse that others miss. The horse is just scared of its own shadow. Poor guy doesn't know how the sun works. You bravely approach the horse and turn him towards the sun, calming it down, and mount it successfully. Your father, shocked, says, "My son, seek a kingdom equal to yourself. Macedon is too small for you." That sounds like a bit too much praise for a 12-year-old who probably just got lucky. Either way, the horse is yours now. Now, you remember how rich I said your family was, right? Well, you're going to need the best education possible for a prince. And your dad hires the Aristotle to be your tutor. But your old man doesn't pay him with gold. No. He pays him by rebuilding Aristotle's hometown. Now that's fuck you money right there. To be fair though, it was destroyed by the Macedonians, so it's only right they fix it. You learn a lot of things from Aristotle, but the biggest thing you take away is his encouragement to be intellectually curious. Chapter 2. The Rise of a Star. A few years roll by and your old man is at a campaign somewhere else, so you serve as his regent. At this time, a weirdly named tribe of people decide to revolt. You raise troops and defeat these rebels, founding your first city. 2 years later, you experience your first major battle. Your dad's army is facing both Athens and Thebes. You take command of cavalry on one flank and lead a devastating charge that helped destroy the Theban sacred band. This battle ended Greek independence, and your old man is now the master of Greece. As if your family couldn't get any more powerful. Also, this battle makes you a military star. But it's around here that things start to get a little sour in your family. Chapter 3. Becoming a king. Your dad marries another wife named Cleopatra. And no, it's not the same Cleopatra that dated Julius Caesar, thank God. I also thought the same thing, but that would have made her like a bajillion years old, so here, not possible. Also, why do the Cleopatras like dating foreign dudes anyway? Egyptian men can't really be that bad, right? I mean, they've got that cool dance that they do. That's sure to pull in the ladies. Okay, sorry, we're getting sidetracked. Back to your father being a treacherous snake. He takes this new wife, and there's this fear that you may be replaced as the heir to the throne. And this causes tension between you and your old man. During their wedding banquet, the uncle to Cleopatra openly prayed that they be blessed with a legitimate child. The fuck did he say? You get up boiling with anger, saying, "What am I then, a bastard?" And you throw your cup at the uncle. Your dad immediately gets up and lunges at you with his sword across dinner tables. But the old man must have had a little too much to drink, cause he clearly couldn't tell what was in front of him. He stumbles over some feasting couches and plants face first into the floor. You look over your father with disappointment and drop the greatest insult a king has ever gotten. Look at this man preparing to cross from Europe to Asia, who cannot even cross from one couch to another. Everyone was shocked. Your old man was still on the floor, however, being too drunk to properly respond to this roast. The next day, though, he regains his senses and deals out punishment swiftly. He banishes you and your mom from Macedonia, and he starts to prepare a new heir in spite of you. But let's be honest, the kid is slightly retarded, so we all know this won't last. And it doesn't, but not in the way you would have imagined. Your dad, the king, gets assassinated by one of his bodyguards at a royal wedding. This creates a golden opportunity for you to seize the throne, and you do so ruthlessly. You gain the loyalty of the Macedon army. You kill any possible claims to the throne, including Cleopatra and her son, and you assassinate the uncle who dared to call you a bastard. You become king of Macedon at the age of 20, but it seems like some of your noisy neighbors around Greece think you will be a walk in the park to defeat, so they cause revolts. Perfect. You needed a scapegoat to announce yourself to the world anyway. You march south to Thebes with lightning speed and destroy virtually everything in sight. Thousands are either killed or sold into slavery. All of a sudden, the rest of Greece is not so eager to challenge you anymore. They all fall in line and you are now the undisputed ruler of Greece. Now is the time where you earn that the Great title. Chapter 4. Alexander the Great. You have spent the last few years securing Greece and making sure nobody gets any funny ideas about rebelling again. Now your eyes turn towards the east, because across the Aegean Sea sits the Persian Empire, the largest empire on earth, and your dad was planning to invade it before he got himself assassinated. So naturally, you decide to finish what he started. At the age of 22, you cross into Asia with around 40,000 men. To put this into perspective, Persia can field armies several times larger than yours. So from the outside, this invasion looks less like a conquest and more like a young man marching directly into his obituary. Before moving further inland, you stop at the legendary city of Troy, because apparently invading the greatest empire on earth can wait a little. You visit the supposed tomb of Achilles, the man you have admired since childhood. You even race naked with your friends around his grave, which is admittedly not how most people pay their respects. But who am I to question ancient Greek traditions? You then declare yourself the new Achilles and continue your invasion. The Persians finally arrive to stop you at the Granicus River. Their commanders decide that the perfect place to fight you is on the opposite side of the river, meaning your men have to climb slippery river banks while being stabbed. To be fair, this is actually a pretty good idea. Unfortunately for them, they forgot one small detail. You are completely insane. You charge into the river yourself, your companions follow, and the battle turns into complete chaos. At one point, a Persian noble raises his axe and nearly splits your skull open. Luckily, one of your friends kills him first. Congratulations! You have survived your first battle in Asia by approximately 1 second. This victory opens up Western Asia Minor to you. Greek cities begin surrendering. Others need a little bit more convincing. You continue south and eventually reach the city of Gordium. Inside sits an ancient wagon tied with an incredibly complicated knot. Legend says, whoever unties it will rule Asia. Everyone gathers around to see what you do. You stare at the knot, you think about it, and then you pull out your sword and cut the entire thing apart. I have to respect the efficiency, honestly. Technically, nobody said you couldn't do that. So yeah. You continue marching south and eventually hear some disturbing news. The Persian king himself is coming. His name is Darius III. And unlike his commanders, this man can raise armies that make your forces look tiny. You meet him at Issus. The battle begins, and suddenly you find yourself facing an army that stretches farther than you can comfortably see. Normal people would panic, but you lower your spear and charge directly toward the king. Because apparently, your battle strategy is simply go punch the biggest guy in the room. The fighting becomes brutal. Bodies pile up, and eventually Darius sees you and decides that today may not be the ideal day to die. He turns around and flees. The problem is that when an emperor runs away, everyone else tends to follow. The Persian army collapses and you win. Even more awkwardly though, Darius accidentally leaves behind his mother, wife, and children. You capture them all. Imagine explaining that one later at dinner. Sorry family, I lost the battle and also forgot about you. After Issus, the entire Eastern Mediterranean begins opening up to you. But there is one problem. The Phoenician city of Tyre refused to surrender. Tyre sits on an island. Its walls are enormous, and its people are convinced you cannot reach them. They are technically correct, at least initially. So you do something that sounds completely ridiculous. You begin building a road through the sea itself. The people of Tyre watch from their walls. Honestly, they probably thought you had finally lost your mind. Several months later though, your road reaches the city. You storm Tyre and destroy their resistance. I imagine the defenders suddenly regretted mocking the road idea. After this, Egypt surrenders without much of a fight, which is understandable. At this point, your reputation is becoming slightly terrifying. The Egyptians welcome you as a liberator. They even declare you the son of a god. Your mom would have absolutely loved hearing this. She had been saying things like that for years. You also found the city of Alexandria, because if there's one thing you love almost as much as conquering, it's naming cities after yourself. Eventually, there's only one thing left to do. Finish the job. You march into the heart of Persia. Darius gathers another massive army and waits for you at Gaugamela. The numbers are once again ridiculous. Some ancient sources claim the Persians outnumber you by several times over. There are cavalry everywhere. There are chariots. There are even war elephants. The battlefield practically looks like someone emptied an entire continent onto one plain. The fighting begins. You notice a gap in the Persian lines, and without hesitation, you lead your cavalry directly into it. You are somehow always trying to stab the king personally. The attack works. Darius panics, and for the second time in his life, he decides that being somewhere else would be preferable. He flees again. At this point, I genuinely feel bad for the man. Imagine ruling the largest empire in the world, and you spend your military career repeatedly running away from one angry Macedonian in a shiny helmet. Persia collapses. You enter Babylon, then Susa, then Persepolis itself. You have done it. You have conquered the greatest empire on earth before turning 30. Most people struggle to decide what career they want by that age. You have also accidentally collected half of Asia. But apparently, half of Asia isn't enough. You continue east for years. You fight rebels, you march through deserts, you cross mountains, you found even more cities named Alexandria. Eventually, you reach India. Your men are exhausted. And rightfully so. Do you know how much walking you have to do to find India by accident? A lot. That's how much. They have marched thousands of miles, fought countless battles, and frankly, they're tired of discovering that every time they reach the edge of the map, you somehow find more map. You want to continue. Your army absolutely does not. For perhaps the first time in your life, you lose an argument. You turn around and begin the journey home. Years of campaigning have taken their toll on you. In Babylon, at only 32 years old, you suddenly fall ill. For days, your condition worsens. Your soldiers file past your bed, one by one. The man who seemed completely unstoppable can no longer even speak properly. And then, just like that, you die. No glorious final battle, no heroic last charge, no dramatic duel, just a fever in Babylon. The empire you created stretches across 3 continents. Yet, you leave behind no clear successor, which is roughly the political equivalent of throwing a stake into a room full of hungry wolves. Your generals immediately begin fighting over everything you built. And so ends the life of Alexander the Great, the boy who wanted to surpass his father, the man who conquered Persia, and the king who reached the edge of the world and still looked beyond it, wondering what was next.